Hello everyone, my name is Chris Hanslik and I'm the chairman of BoyarMiller. I want to welcome you to a continuation of our series on the future of Houston's workforce. Today I'm joined by Mike Temple. Mike is the director of the Gulfcoast Workforce Board and Workforce Solutions. At BoyarMiller, we feel it's important to deliver information about issues that are critical to the economic viability of businesses in our region. And nothing could be more vital or important than the conditions of the workforce to businesses and their success. So I hope you will enjoy this program and find the information valuable. Thank you. Mike, before we get into questions, can you just maybe introduce yourself, what you do and what the Workforce Board and Workforce Commission does?
Okay, great, Chris. I am Mike Temple. I'm the director for the Gulfcoast Workforce Board and Workforce Solutions, its operating affiliate, and together we are the public workforce system in the greater Houston area. That's a 13-county region that includes Houston and Harris County at its center and the 12 surrounding counties. It's about 12,000 square miles, 7.2 million people, and 150,000 businesses.
But who's counting, right?
Right, who's counting? It's a big footprint, and we help employers find the skilled talent they need to keep going and be competitive, and we help people get a job, keep a job, or get a better job.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Mike, I want to thank you for joining me today. Looking forward to some of the insights and thoughts you have on the topic of the employer-employee relationship and kind of what's going on in the Houston workforce.
Well, thanks, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's start, kind of dive right in. You know, the last 2 years have been anything but normal, especially in this topic. You know, the pandemic's kind of wreaked havoc on
Yes.
the employment workforce, employer relationships with their employees. What's kind of your forecast on how long it's going to take for Houston to recover from the jobs lost as a result of the pandemic?
From the jobs loss perspective, we are estimating the end of 2022 or first quarter 2023.
Okay, so it's in sight.
Yeah, it's in sight. It's coming. Initially, we thought it might take as long as the end of 2023, but it looks like it'll come back a little quicker.
Is there any particular area where you see the recovery or the growth of jobs, of the absorption of those jobs over one industry over the other?
Oh yeah, transportation and warehousing. So,
Okay.
which is obvious, I
Right.
think, to most people.
Right.
But that industry has recovered all the jobs it's lost plus more.
Okay.
So it's doing really
So
well.
all those Amazon distribution centers we see are leading the way.
FedEx and UPS and all the rest.
Very good. What about the reverse side of that? What industries have you seen, based on the numbers, suffering the most as far as jobs lost and not seeing much of a recovery?
Well, there are a couple. There's construction, which is kind of key to our regional economy, is still down some 17,000 jobs. And that has not come back as quickly as the others. There are some other energy-related industries. Much of our manufacturing sector here is related to energy, and it has not come back. And the hospitality industry is sort of up and down lately.
Okay. Well, let's talk of some of those a little more specific.
Sure.
So on the construction side, I mean, it seems obvious that, you know, we know that I guess people working from home, office space is being used less. Is that part of what's contributing, you think, to the slowdown and the I guess pace of construction and the need for more construction workers?
Yes, particularly in commercial construction, the construction of buildings and strip centers and stores and things like that. As the retail industry sort of shifts, we just don't need that much space anymore. So
Right.
that construction is down. Some of the larger building construction is also not going on. And there is some, work in the residential sector that's going okay.
Okay.
But it's that commercial and sector that's really not come back yet.
Do you see any trends where it looks like part of the recovery you spoke about when we started might be gained in the construction area?
I think that the heavy and civil construction projects that are coming up, the roads, the bridges, the flood control efforts, the sewers, things like that, that will pick up, and that employment is in the construction industry.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about energy.
Okay.
There's been a lot of things talked about, written about kind of a flight from energy, at least the traditional type energy, and maybe some growth in the renewables or more clean energy. What are you seeing in those trends as far as it relates to employment and job trends in the energy sector?
That's a very interesting question, because in terms of our recovery right now and the trends in that industry, I don't think we're seeing a lot of people leaving the oil and gas side of the industry.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the mining sector, which is the upstream, the exploration and production side of the oil industry, has recovered its jobs.
That's good news.
That is good news.
And the price of oil is up.
It is, and that usually means that in the manufacturing sector, the pipe manufacturers, the downhole equipment manufacturers will come up behind that.
Right.
There's obviously an emphasis on renewable energy and clean energy. There's a lot of emphasis around here on solar.
Sure.
In terms of building solar farms, building solar panels, those kinds of things. So, that'll be 5 years down the road before you see a sizable increase in the employment there.
Okay. And then with regard to hospitality, you mentioned that. I mean, Houston, in many ways, is known as a hospitality hub. I mean, we are culinary capital, we think, of the world. It's certainly the United States, with all the restaurants and great chefs we have here in town. In fact, I think if you watch the news in the last few weeks, there's new restaurants being announced, opening almost weekly. Great sporting venues. What do you see as kind of the role of recovery as it relates to the hospitality industry, as it relates to the employment workforce and maybe trends moving forward?
There's hospitality, of course, encompasses a lot of things, and principally it's the hotels that are down at the moment.
Sure.
Because there just isn't a lot of business around the hotels.
Right. Not a lot of travel and not a lot of big events.
We had a lot of restaurants, unfortunately, go out of business during the pandemic because they couldn't sustain. However, some of those are coming back, and that employment is up. I will say this, I know that a lot of those retail food establishments are having difficulty finding people.
Yeah. Any advice for those employers about what they can do to maybe get the employees back, or suggestions to the employees out there about why they should be getting back to those jobs?
I believe that Houston is lucky. We're the home of some rather large restaurant chains, and those employers have tried bonuses, and they've increased wages. Food work is traditionally kind of a shift work, periodic thing. And as there's a shift in people's desire to work, whether they want to work part-time or work full-time or be able to take time off to be with their families, some of that restaurant work may become a little more attractive to them. Yeah. What drives a lot in that industry is wages. Sure. Simply, if the wages are higher and there's the opportunity for benefit packages and those kinds of things, you'll be able to attract people.
And I assume, obviously, if the wages go up, you're going to see, as we have been seeing, right? Prices go up. Exactly.
Sure.
I don't know about you, but I know firsthand there's some restaurants here in town that have closed for, like, example, lunch service. Not because they don't have consumer demand, right? They could fill the restaurant with people wanting to come have lunch there, but they can't staff it.
Right.
Are you hearing the same thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've been hearing that for months.
I mean, who would have thought we'd ever be in that position, right?
Not me.
Yeah.
You would think whenever there's a demand for the service that you would be able to deliver it.
Right.
But again, the pandemic has changed so many things about work, and labor markets in general are sort of in a tumult. They're just kind of boiling and churning, and it's going to take a little while for it to settle down.
Yeah. Any information that from your side and the research y'all do, and sticking with hospitality and restaurants, where the the delivery services, the Uber Eats, the DoorDash, et cetera, is having a negative effect on getting people, back into work in restaurants because of the delivery services. Yeah.
We haven't specifically investigated that. Haven't really seen that.
Yeah.
That might be an interesting question. I don't think so.
Okay. Very good. Going back to hotels, is the hotel industry having trouble staffing?
Yes.
In all sectors, I guess, or all different job levels?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and they don't have the rooms filled, so they don't staff up as they normally would. And again, those are jobs in which people are looking for higher wages, better benefits, better working conditions.
So we're on the eve of one of the biggest events annually.
The rodeo.
The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. So any concerns over, I think the expectation is people are going to come to Houston for that and travel throughout the state. Any concerns about Houston's ability to deliver, the hotel service and the restaurant service for the demand that is anticipated over those 3 weeks?
I don't have any concerns about that because, I think here in Houston we always manage to do a good job when we have to rise to the occasion. I think what you might find is a lot of people working in the hospitality venues who might be rather new to the job. They might come on in, say, this month.
Sure. Almost like
month.
Maybe like a seasonal worker. So
Yes.
we see in the holidays where businesses are going to have to go out and get this kind of seasonal worker, if you will.
That's exactly it.
Okay. Other thing that Houston's known for is being such a diverse city. Is that diversity translating into the workforce? And if so, what are you seeing? If not, what should Houston be doing to make sure we continue to have and attract a diverse workforce pool?
We do have a diverse workforce here. It just reflects the fact that we have an extremely diverse population. I don't know that we need to do anything special to continue to attract diversity to the area. I think that when you get a little settled here, one of the things that you want to think about, or we want to think about in terms of the future, is the kind of skills we want to attract, people with the kind of skills we want to attract. We have traditionally wanted to attract high-skilled people for the medical center, for some of the research activities that go on here. And that's always an area we need to do a little better on, I think.
What kind of things are you and your group doing to aid in that effort?
One of the things that we always do for all of the employers that we work with is try to source good candidates for them. And that usually means when we're looking for what we often call hard to fill jobs, going outside of Houston, going outside of the state, and sometimes going internationally to look for people who would be interested in coming here. And the way we usually approach that is to talk about the benefits of the job and the employer when we're contacting somebody who doesn't live here.
Okay. So speaking of healthcare, there's another thing that you hear routinely is the fatigue that those workers have experienced over the last 2 years. What are you seeing as far as retention of rates and things in the medical center as a result of the pandemic?
Obviously, the large hospitals are having more people leave than they would like.
Yeah.
And that's mostly the nurses, because their nurses are the backbone of hospitals. I know that those hospitals are doing everything they can to help retain nurses.
Some examples of what they're doing.
Well, they are raising wages, and when they can get to the point where they don't have to have everybody on call all the time, there'll be some changes in their shift working conditions.
Okay.
Nurses, bachelor's prepared RNs are fairly well paid as it is.
Sure.
It's just that you probably have to have more of them.
I was going to ask that. Are they bringing in more? And if so, I assume you mentioned international recruiting. Are they coming, like international sources of bringing in the additional nurses to kind of augment or supplement the existing workforce?
Not so much.
Okay.
Not so much internationally. That was something that was done a lot 20, 30 years ago. There are quite a few nursing schools here in Houston that produce a workforce already. And again, the pandemic has made it so different than the way it normally operates that if you are not staffed appropriately, you have to go out and essentially find what they call in the business agency nurses.
Okay.
And those are sometimes people who travel. There are nurses who travel all over the country from one place to the next.
Okay, just independent contractor type freelance?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Interesting. So you mentioned the nursing schools, and that made me think, what do you and your team do to work with all of the institutions of higher education, maybe even high schools, to make sure that we're getting the right skills, teaching the right skills and knowledge so that the people coming out with whatever degree they may be getting are ready for the jobs that are out there that employers are looking to fill?
You know, we do a lot of that. That is one of the principal things that we do as part of our business at Workforce Solutions. We start with our best available data that we put together, something we call high skill, high growth jobs.
Yeah.
That lists those jobs in this region that we think are good jobs, require skills, and will be a good bet for the future. And then we promote that everywhere we possibly can, including the schools.
Okay.
We have some staff who spend their time going out to, it's mostly high schools, but sometimes the junior highs, to just talk to students and teachers about, first of all, those occupations and how you would go into them. And provide labor market information, just general information so students can search. We talk to parents. We actually have a curriculum that extends all the way from kindergarten through the 12th grade.
Do you really?
It's built around the high skill, high growth jobs. And then we are a major scholarship provider for people who are eligible for our money for post-secondary education. We have a lot of contacts with the current technology education departments. There are 70 plus school districts in our region, so there are a lot of them.
Wow. And you have those programs in all 70?
Not all 70.
Okay.
Probably 50.
Wow.
Where we've got contacts. And we're always trying to look to the future. So right now what we're talking about with some of those high schools and those current technology educators is work-based learning and how we might work with them to take those students into apprenticeships.
Yeah, hands-on experience.
Yes, earn and learn.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I guess, the top jobs in the area or whatever. What are the top 2 or 3 when you're, promoting the high earning jobs or whatever in this area? What are those?
We always say nurses.
Okay.
Obviously, there are a lot of jobs, and those are high skill jobs, and they're great career progressions there for them. We've said for years petroleum engineers.
Okay. That's still the case?
That's still the case. I mean, and when you look at the numbers, that's still good. And then the skilled trades, electricians and plumbers.
Okay.
During the Great Freeze last February,
Yeah.
I said, all right, we need to get on the airwaves and say, be a plumber.
Right.
We need more plumbers.
It was hard to get them, and they were definitely making good wages.
Yes, they are.
Hopefully we don't have that experience again.
Oh.
Right.
Let us
Dodged a
hope.
bullet a week ago.
But we could always use more plumbers and more electricians because those are highly skilled jobs, and they're also very well paid, and they are jobs that are always going to be here.
Okay. So let's take a turn back just to the general workforce, and we were talking about disruption within the system, and you hear the Great Resignation, and some say people have left the workforce, some say they haven't necessarily left, they've just moved within it. Regardless of your view of that, you can't deny there's been a huge war on talent. Compensation, as you mentioned, has had to increase for employers to keep people or at least get them in the door, even to attract them. So, what are some of the things you are seeing that employers are doing to try to attract and retain, in addition to just increased compensation?
There are some changes going on in the benefits packages that employers are offering. So better health care coverage, better retirement benefits, and other than the wages, it's the working condition issue that is probably the one that employers are thinking about more than anything else, and that is, if the job can be done remotely, do you let people to do it remotely?
Right.
If it's shift work, do you arrange for shorter shifts instead of longer shifts, so that people have time to be at home?
And the work from home, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think this shift, shorter shift thing is interesting because it kind of goes back to something we said earlier. What that means is you need more people to get the same job done, and possibly at a higher wage, which again is just a couple more examples of why prices are going up.
Right. Yes. In some ways, the shorter shifts were normal in most industries 30 years ago, and they changed over that time.
Yeah.
I think that we will probably be going back to those shorter shifts. So instead of 12-hour shifts, you have 8-hour shifts.
Gotcha. Okay. As it relates to just Houston as a city, what should the city be thinking and doing, whether that's our city leaders in government, whether it's developers? What does Houston need to be doing to attract and retain businesses and the workforce here in our community?
That's a big question, Chris.
Maybe we'll do our separate show just on that one.
Okay, yeah, that's a huge question.
Well, let's narrow it down to real estate. And then from a real estate perspective, are there things that you think over the next 3 to 5, maybe 10 years, Houston should be doing or thinking about doing to continue to be attractive?
Well, I'll tell you, not necessarily real estate itself, but the one issue I think that is something we talk about here always, and people notice when they come here, is transportation. Being able to journey to work, to get to where you want to go when you're not at work without extraordinary stress. Right. So I would say more than anything, we need to work on our transportation system and alternatives. And, frankly, that's one of the reasons people here like the remote work, because they don't have to get out on a freeway.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can see that coming in this morning. There was something going on, and it was a mess.
Oh, gosh. There always is, and then there's construction on top of it.
Right. Every road's always under construction here. I don't know why that is.
Well, at least that employs people.
That's true. Yeah, this is a good side. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for your time and your insight. Obviously, there's lots to talk about in this area, but you're right at the ground zero, and appreciate all the efforts you're doing for our region to make sure that we have jobs and people that are skilled and capable of filling them.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate it. And what we say at the Gulfcoast Workforce Board is we're here to keep this region the best place to do business, work, and live.
Right. Well, you're doing a great job of that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again for joining. I hope you found this information valuable. And if you'd like to learn more about the services our law firm provides to businesses, please go to our website. Thank you.